Good boy, Griffin. Stay right there, okay? So everybody can see you in this video. Welcome to HeartTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to be updating an annual bed and some containers that are behind the screen porch on the back of my landscape here in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B. This was beautiful all summer long, but the annuals have gotten tired toward the end of the season here, as they always do, and it's time to update it for the winter time. Going to be putting in some pansies, going to be putting in some ornamental cabbage and kale, going to be putting in a few edibles that I grew, and also planting garlic in this video as well. So here we go. I put up a video a few days ago planting some annuals in the front garden, and I talked about in that video that I had created kind of a permanent annual bed in that space where I had added some bark and added some compost, and I've actually got it where it's easily 6 inches deep, where it's just super easy to mix up. Because when I'm planting these annual plants, I want to get as much performance out of them as I possibly can. Really don't do this in the rest of the garden. I might just add some compost, and I keep the ground covered with mulch, and that breaks down and improves the soil. But these annual beds, I go a little further than that. I like to use pine bark, if you can find it. This is simply ground pine bark right here. I got this at Lowe's the other day. Here in the southeast, pine bark's going to be much easier to find probably than it is in other areas. But if you go to a bulk place in your area, in all likelihood they're going to have some sort of flower planting mix, or it'll say something like that: annual planting mix, flower planting mix, something like that you can generally find in bulk no matter where you live. The pine bark does just a great job of creates some aeration. It can be mixed into the soil without causing anaerobic conditions. It breaks down well even when it's buried. This is what you see most of your shrubs and things grown in. You pull a shrub out of a container, you're seeing pine bark soil conditioner. And then I add the compost. What's become harder and harder to find is materials in these stores that don't have fertilizer in them. This is just composted cow manure here. It's obviously got some sort of bark or some sort of wood fiber in there as well, but it's become harder and harder to find soil mixes without fertilizers in them, and I don't want any fertilizer in them. It's kind of a frustrating thing. This was literally the only cow manure that was there that didn't have some additional, pre-emergent herbicide or, fertilizer component to it. But anyway, so I'm going to just pour out some of this compost in this space. And I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side, and just a pretty generous amount that we're going to mix in. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the pine bark, just like that. And same thing on this side, just like that. And I'm going to quickly mix it in. I've just got my regular old trenching shovel, and I'll just kind of smooth it out here first, and then I'm just going to go in here and kind of turn it over and mix it in. You can already see how much I've improved this soil in a short amount of time. I'm 18 months into this project, and simply by covering this ground initially with some compost and then keeping it covered with hardwood mulch for almost 2 years now, this soil is so much better already. It's just amazing how fast you can really alter the soil, and from the top down. I hadn't mixed anything in. This is the first time this has been turned over. So that's it. That's all I do there. And this will be just now the perfect place to grow annual flowers now and in the future. I'll just add a small amount of compost back in here in the spring when I replant it. I'll do the same over here. Depending on the size of the space, after you've got it broken up like this, and you can use a tiller to prep a big space, but this shovel worked well for this small space. You can use the back of a garden rake like this, just that flat part, and smooth it out like that. Obviously, these are such small spaces, I can just flatten it out with the shovel. Keep in mind when you put your garden rake down on the ground that the tines go down that was the way to find the wrath of Jim on a landscape job, was when I would come in and all the tools would be right where you could step on them and hit yourself in the nose. Anyway, the next piece here for me is I want to get this edge along this turf looking good again, and so I'll just come along and use my shovel and just kind of re-establish the edge along the turf like that, and then that's just ready to plant. That's a nice little bed there. Again, I'll just come over here and do the exact same thing, just getting this re-edged. Did these white vein Swiss chard from seed in the house, and have been waiting to have a place to put them. I think they're the perfect thing to mix in with these orange pansies. And I'm going to do the same thing on both sides, but there's one of these Swiss chard going here, and then a swath of these orange pansies are going across. I use this. Be careful with pansies, how you pull them out. It's best to squeeze the bottom like this. I have snapped a few off at the top trying to pull them out, by the top of the plant. So just keep that in mind. It is actually easy to break these off. These are going quick and easy. I think I'll probably have room for about maybe 7 plants on this side. The other side's a little bit bigger. I'm going to put a few more of those Swiss chard in here as well. There you go. Okay, just like that. Next thing I'm going to do is plant some garlic, and I'm going to plant garlic in several places in the landscape. It doesn't necessarily have to go in your vegetable garden, but when you buy this seed garlic, you can just break them apart. They should break apart pretty easily. Don't have to remove the paper. You put the top side of the garlic. You can tell the bottom of the bulb, where the roots were and where the top of the bulb is. Just thumb them down into the ground where the top is up. And literally, because I prepped this so well, I can actually just push them right down into the ground, and they can go fairly close together, just a few inches apart. And the ground's still warm enough this time of year that they'll root out, and they maybe even start to put on a little bit of top growth here before it gets super, super cold. And then they'll take off in the late winter as the soil starts to warm up a bit. And when the foliage starts to die back on them, that's when you harvest your garlic. Really about as straightforward as any other edible plant you'd ever grow. And really easy to plant, as you can see. I've done 2 of these very, very quickly. And they're ultimately maybe 3.5, 4 inches down in that space, but won't take long. I'll start to see them come up here probably by mid-November. Our ground stays warm enough. At that point, they'll just kind of sit there in a kind of a semi-dormancy and then take off when it starts to warm back up on the other side of winter. Holly's made her way into the video as always. I found this 9-pack of ornamental kale. These are small. I kind of like this though, because this was way less expensive than buying them in quart pots or even especially gallons. The middle row are white ones, and then the outer 2 rows are ones with a purple center on them. I'm going to use these 2 white ones in this container with this variegated boxwood that I showed how to make that little ball in a video last year. Let's see. Get over here where I can reach it. Okay. This will have that white color in the center as the nights get cooler. It's been too warm thus far. I've got some violas or you can get Johnny jump ups or violas, or even now there are panolas, which are violas and pansies that were mixed together, and you get, on the panolas, you get the cold hardiness of the violas with more bloom power of pansies. They've kind of picked those two qualities by mixing them together. So if you can find panolas, violas, or Johnny jump ups, those are the best things to use in containers, because despite the fact that these pansies are very, very cold hardy in the ground here, elevated in a container, they're not as hardy. They don't die, but they just underperform. These will just tolerate more cold. The flowers are typically a little bit smaller on them, but that's okay. I'm going to just blend some of these into several of these containers. There's a couple in there, and this top container that's got this plum-yew in it. It's got some Vinca minor in it too that I'm just going to leave in there through the winter time. I filled this container here with just compost. It's just a low bowl, and I've got some lettuce that I had done from seed. Garden over here is full of lettuce, but I can actually keep these in these containers growing for a long time, because if it gets super cold, I can actually just bring these inside. I'll pick some of the lower brown leaves off of them and just pop them right into this compost in this container, and these will just absolutely go wild. And in the spring, I'll just dump this compost right into the vegetable garden over there and reuse it that way. But this is a straightforward, quick and easy. I just put 3 plants in here. This gets a lot of sun in the afternoon. So there's 3 rectangular containers over on the right-hand side. I put those black pansies in there again. I had to get a pack of those. I had those black pansies that lasted almost until June last year. And then there's a few white pansies. And then there's a dark purple Swiss chard that I did from seed. A few things in those containers are gonna go to sleep or come out in the winter. That carex, that grass, will stay evergreen, and that heucherella will stay evergreen. But the other things will fill in as we go. That garlic was put in right in front of that, which again, I just thumbed down into a very loose soil that I had created using that bark and compost in the existing soil that was there. And I'm gonna have several more places in the landscape where I'll be growing some garlic, and then the pansies and that white Swiss chard that was done from seed. But those orange pansies should be a big pop of color there. All of the containers got additions to them. They got either violas, or there's a purple kale in that location, some lettuce containers, and a few other things. And I think I've got a few other containers I'm going to pot up here in the next few days. So this is now converted from its summer annual space to a winter. This should be a lot of color, especially by late February, March, April, until about early May. This should really stand out. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can follow along. Thanks for watching.